Deep Impact is directed by Mimi Leader. This is an action, drama, science fiction movie. The movie stars Robert Duvall as Captain Spurgeon Tanner, Tia Leone as Jenny Lerner, Elijah Wood as Leo Biederman, Lily Sobieski as Sarah Hotchner, Jon Favreau as Dr. Gus Partenza, James Cromwell as Alan Rittenhouse, and Morgan Freeman as the President of the United States, Tom Beck. This movie is rated PG-13 for intense disaster-related elements and brief language. This movie would be okay for anyone 14 years of age and older. The movie has a runtime of exactly 2 hours. Deep Impact was released in theaters in the United States on Friday, May 8th, 1998. I saw this movie in theaters, and I remember this being one of the best movie theater experiences I ever had. I saw this movie at the movie theater in Kerrville, Texas. A comet is discovered hurtling towards Earth. The government does its best to keep it quiet for almost a year until the truth is uncovered by MSNBC reporter Jenny Lerner. The President of the United States, Tom Beck, finds out that Lerner knows the truth, which forces him to go public with the information to let the world know what is happening. He tells reporters and the American people the plan to stop the comet. A group of 6 highly trained astronauts will be taken into space on a space shuttle where they will board the largest spaceship ever constructed that is being built in orbit around the Earth that is called the Messiah. Then they will journey miles out into space to the comet, where they will land on the surface of the comet, and 4 members of the team will use devices called moles that each have nuclear weapons attached to them, and the moles will drill into the comet to a depth of 100 meters, and then the nuclear warheads will be detonated and hopefully knock the comet off its present course, heading towards Earth. However, if the mission fails, then the people of Earth will have to prepare for the worst-case scenario of the comet striking the planet, which will have devastating effects for over 2 years. That is the summary synopsis. Here are my negatives for the film. To be perfectly honest, I don't have anything negative to say about this movie. However, that does not mean that this is a perfect movie, because it most certainly is not. It does have its problems. However, I don't see anything visible that really stands out to me that I would consider negative and that needs to be talked about. So from there, I will move on to the positives of this movie. The story is really great, and it is a very simple story, though it does have some complex things in it, but nothing to where it makes you say to yourself, I have no idea what's even going on. This story is very easy to comprehend, and it is told with style and beauty. The writers did a fantastic job of coming up with the story, and Mimi Leader did a great job of directing this movie. The actors of this film, oh my gosh, such a wonderful ensemble cast of some amazing talent. Tia Leone, this was my first introduction to her. I had never seen her in anything before this, but man, she blew me away, and I loved her character, Jenny Lerner, because she brought a realism to the movie and to her character. She was intelligent, instinctive, tough, vulnerable, empathetic, and at the very end, forgiving to her father. Next is teen actor Elijah Wood, who was a child actor and had been in many movies before this, and this was before Frodo and his Lord of the Rings days. And man, what a character this was. I mean, in this film, he literally went from being a boy and then having to grow up into a man really fast, and he had to make some tough choices along the way to save his family, himself, and the girl that he loves. Then there was the teen actress Lily Sobieski. This was actually her first big break in the movies. She had been a guest actress on many TV shows, but this was her first movie, and man, did she deliver. She played the friend and love interest to Elijah Wood's character, and she just had a sweet innocence about her that was definitely utilized for her character. And I loved her in this movie. Next is veteran actor Robert Duvall, who plays Captain Spurgeon Tanner, an older gentleman and astronaut sent on the Messiah mission with the young crew to be the pilot that takes them down to the comet's surface, and ends up having to take command of the mission after the mission commander gets seriously injured. He plays a man who is just sort of there along for the ride to do his part, but then ends up with all the responsibility of the mission and the crew of the Messiah. And finally, there is Morgan Freeman, who plays the President of the United States, Tom Beck, a man who is under insurmountable pressure because a comet is on its way to destroy Earth, and it's up to him to make sure that they do everything in their power to stop the comet, while at the same time preparing for the worst case scenario. Morgan Freeman was brilliant. I loved him as the president. This is the first time Morgan Freeman has played the president, but it certainly would not be his last. He would later go on to play the acting president of the United States in the film Olympus Has Fallen, and later he would go on to be the president of the United States in the sequel Angel Has Fallen. The characters in this film are just as brilliant and amazing as the actors playing them. The characters in this movie are not at all one or two dimensional. They are all three-dimensional characters who go through very complex and emotional arcs, and the more we get to know these characters and the more time we spend with them, the more we care about them. Morgan Freeman, who plays President Tom Beck, is trying his best to do everything in his power to keep the comet from hitting Earth, but at the same time preparing for the worst. I liked Morgan Freeman in this because he's playing a president who is hell-bent on trying to save everyone, but in his mind he knows that not everyone will survive, and there are several scenes in this movie with no dialogue in which we see Morgan Freeman as the president knowing that he can't save everyone, and it is really eating away at him. I mean, fantastic performance by Morgan Freeman. Tia Leone, who plays up-and-coming MSNBC journalist Jenny Lerner, who thinks she's just on a regular story about a politician who worked for the president who resigned because of an affair, but the more she digs into it and uncovers the facts, she realizes that it is just a fake cover story and that she has just uncovered the biggest story in human history. The president finds out that she knows about this, which forces him to go public with it. She then goes from being just a regular reporter to being on the anchor desk at MSNBC. Though she does face some backlash at work because her boss thinks that she hid the story from them, which is not the case at all. She also faces some family issues regarding her dad getting remarried to a woman who's younger than herself, and also how her mom is dealing with all that. Jenny Lerner is the main character in this film, and all the story elements go through her, and her arc that she goes through is absolutely beautiful. Such a wonderfully written character. Elijah Wood, who plays Leo Biederman, is a young teenage boy in middle school who first discovers the comet when on assignment with his school's astronomy club. After realizing that he and another astronaut who was killed in an automobile accident were the first two to discover the comet, he becomes famous, which he really doesn't care about until the comet gets closer. He goes from just being a typical middle school boy to having to grow up into a man very fast, which forces him to make some of the most important decisions of his life. When he realizes his best friend and the girl he loves won't be saved by the U.S. government, he uses his fame to get her and her family on the list, but in order to do that, he and Sarah have to be married and be family. I always liked Elijah Wood in a lot of his movies, but this is one of his best, and he really embraced this character, and the arc that Leo goes through and how fast he has to grow up is incredible to watch. Robert Duvall, who plays Captain Spurgeon Tanner, who is an older astronaut, is part of the Messiah mission, and he's the one who will take the crew down to the surface of the comet, though he faces some opposition from the very young members of the crew because they feel that he is only there on the mission for public relations. Tanner handles that like a professional, but when several members of the crew, including the mission commander, get seriously hurt while on the comet's surface, he has to take command of the mission. In the end, he and the crew make some decisions together that could possibly save the planet. Robert Duvall is such a great actor in all of his movies. He's had some great roles, but this was one of his finest roles, so great job, Robert Duvall. The visual and special effects that are used in this film are amazing. The film uses practical effects, and they use things such as models, miniatures, matte paintings, and other practical tricks. The film also uses CGI for some of the shots and sequences as well. The CGI looks really good in this film, and it blends well with the practical effects. One of my favorite things about this movie is the huge traffic jam scenes and the sequence that they did with that. This was done for real, and they had hundreds and thousands of extras for the shots in the film regarding that huge traffic jam sequence. I liked it because it was done this way and it was not done with CGI. It gives the film a more realistic look, and it grounds the film as if this is really happening in real life. I like how they used a real news organization for Jenny Lerner to work for. They didn't have to go and create a fake one. Originally, though, they wanted to use CNN, but the top officials at CNN rejected this because they said it would be inappropriate. MSNBC agreed to be featured in the film instead, seeing it as a way to gain exposure for the then newly created network. The look of the film is very authentic and very realistic looking. The film is not shiny or sleek looking, but it is not grainy or dirty looking either. It falls in between both of those. The film uses warm and cool colors. The more warm colors are used on Earth, and the cool colors are used out in space and on the comet. The sets on this movie are great. They use actual location sets as well as sets created in studio sound stages. Some of the best sets are the comet surface set and the interior of the Messiah set. The actual location scenes were filmed in Washington, D.C., New York, California, and Virginia. The film uses mainly still locked-in-place shots, tracking shots, some handheld and shaky cam shots as well. And finally, there is the score music. Oh my gosh, let me just say the score music in this movie is absolutely beautiful. The score music is composed and conducted by James Horner. This is the same composer responsible for the beautiful and epic score from James Cameron's 1997 Academy Award-winning hit blockbuster film Titanic. In the Deep Impact score, you can hear some of the familiar notes and cues that are similar to what he used in Titanic's score. The score in this movie hits all the emotions that this film gives off, and it gives the film that much more power. This score is amazing and lovely, and the score music is truly the heartbeat of this film. Okay, those are my positives. Now it's grading time. I'm going to give the dramatic action science fiction thriller Deep Impact a very powerful A+. Here are my final thoughts. This movie had a lasting impression on me because it evokes every emotion. I had a great movie theater experience with this movie. Since I have owned Deep Impact, I've had a great time with this movie at home as well. One thing that is different about this movie compared to other asteroid comet movies is that the rock actually hits the Earth in this movie, which is something we had not seen before. All in all, this is a fun action, adventure, sci-fi movie that I still enjoy to this very day. Whenever I have a family and kids of my own one day, this is one movie I will definitely share with them. This movie is so underrated, and it does not get the credit and recognition that it truly deserves. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to say good night. God bless. I love all of you, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.